do that. Jason, can you just let me know, are we going okay with, have people been able to log on again? Can you just give me an update on that? Yep, we're all good. So I'm very pleased to introduce Donna Coots, who's the owner manager of Walden Park and a previous participant in the Healthy Landscapes program, and Sam White, who's the manager of the family farm and the owner of Sidonia Beef, and has co-delivered the Holistic Grazing Management short course for several years. I'd really like to jump into the first question, just starting with Donna. Donna, can you please outline your business to the audience and introduce us to Walden Park Beef?
Thanks very much for having me this evening, Sally, and thank you, Jason, too. It's a privilege to speak to you this evening. So Walden Park is at Spring Hill, at 650 to 700 metres, right on top of the dividing range between Trentham and Kyneton. We have 47 hectares and we bought that in 2017. I work full-time on the farm and also have the support of my partner and teenage children who help when they can. We run a herd of 40 to 50 belted Galloway cattle and a herd of a flock of 50 to 100 Border Leicester sheep, and have an extensive food garden that supports us and several families in the area. The last time, 2015 was the last time synthetic fertilisers or tillage used on our farm. And we follow regenerative practices, so we don't use herbicides and insecticides on our pastures, and we're not certified organic, but we follow organic principles. Our direct to public beef sales began in early 2022, and yeah, so we've been building the business over that time in those 2.5 years. We process steers and heifers and grow them to approximately 36 months. So depending on when the animal's ready, sometimes 24, but sometimes above 36 months. We process one body a month, and I personally deliver that animal to Hardwicks. It's then delivered to a butcher who packs and labels our beef before being delivered back to me for farm gate pickups. We sell almost all of our beef at the pre-order stage, so by word of mouth on our web shop and through Instagram, mostly in 5 kilogram and 10 kilogram boxes, so a very simple product line. 50% of our customers are local and 50% from Metro Melbourne. So yeah, Sam, you
yeah, well, that's great. Can you still hear Sally? Are we still live?
Right to go there, Sam. I'd love you to introduce your business as well, Sidonia Beef. Sidonia Beef. Thank you, Sam. Take it away.
No worries. Yeah, hello everybody, and yeah, thanks Sally and Jace as well. I'm Sam White. I'm the farm manager of Sidonia Beef. It's a family farm out at Sidonia, obviously. Run with my partner Miranda, and we have 2 kids. We run our stock over 500 hectares, and that's split up at the moment into 85 permanent pastures. Currently we have 160 breeding cattle that are actually about to drop their calf any day now, and we've just separated their offspring from last year, and we have 110 weaners that are now in a different zone of the farm. We have 200 ultrafine wool merinos. We were always a sheep farm historically under Dad and sort of my grandfather, but now we're predominantly cattle, but still use the merinos that for the little paddocks that you can't quite get to, and that are not really suitable for cattle. We just still love the merino, and they actually do come together with the weaners over springtime to get more impact on the pasture. So that works out well, which I can talk about later. Then we do have also a little mob of bulls running separately, and with them or near them, we normally pick out our paddock to plate offerings. They can either run with them if they're a steer, or maybe separately if they're a heifer. But all in all, we try and keep it in one mob if we can. Yeah, so that's pretty much who I am. We have been farming as a family out in the district for a fair time. I'm sort of 5th generation on the farm, and my son's hopefully going to be the 6th generation. But yeah, so we can talk more about everything from here on. Thank you.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about your strategy for direct marketing to the consumer, Donna and Sam. I know, Sam, you have tried a few different strategies. Can you tell us if there have been any strategies that you've tried before you've settled on the one that you're doing now, and what were some of the things that have made this current strategy a bit more effective than the last ones that you've done?
Yep, sure, no problem. Yeah, we just to give you a little bit of perspective, I took over management of the family farm back in 2005, sort of officially, after working part-time in Melbourne and on and off the farm a little bit. And I did complete a diploma in organic agriculture at the time. But since 2005, I've trialled multiple techniques and methods that were aligned with sustainable farming and beef production. First and foremost was organic, organic farming and organic way of farming, coming from a conventional system, of course. But in the end, after the diploma, which was great to learn a lot of different things, most of the participants from that course didn't want to get certified. They felt like there was just the certification process sort of overlooked just the way you farm. It was more about sort of seemed like big business and just a lot of money spent, but without really focusing on animal health, but not on land health. So I moved to mineral supplements and the Pat Colby systems. Got quite obsessed with that. Made Dad buy a $2,500 shed mineral sleigh that I used to pull around the paddocks. But I realised if we didn't have soil health, we're really just propping up the animals' health by giving them minerals. So that didn't really work. Not only was it that it was impractical on a larger scale, time consuming, and that also drenching. I used to do drenching. Back then we had a few thousand head of sheep, and drenching them with one shot of kelp and different things, cod liver oil and whatever, apple cider vinegar, seemed like we're doing the right thing. Don't know if the animals actually really liked it. I remember their faces sometimes turning up at me, like when you drench them. But I can remember starting at 8 a.m. and I was still there at 3 o'clock in that same day doing one drench, thinking, what am I doing here? So, it was great to try these things. I learned a lot, but in the end, another one was composting. I brought animal manure in, chook manure, hay, mixed it all up, spread it out, bought a belt spreader, so that was a big investment. But labour intensive, time consuming, not really sure whether it was doing anything. I learned later that maybe you need to put a lot more on. It felt like I was putting a lot on already. So I ended up selling the spreader and stopping that as well. Then in 2015, I found holistic management and Brian Wellberg. So that was amazing and really changed my life and the way I farm at the time. Seeing the farm as a whole environment and a way of life, not just as a farm. Running a profitable business without compromising on the environment. So that was, I learned a lot. I opened the gate and put all the mobs together and ran one mob, and have done since sort of 2016 of running one mob, which has been a lot of learning curves there too, ups and downs. But and then regenerative agriculture has sort of become the actual the be all and end all, and I think that's where we're happy and where we sit now. I don't want to go over time.
What about you there, Donna? When you were originally putting your farm plan together, does it look the same for you now? Did your original farm plan, when you were first dreaming up Walden Park, does it look the same as how your marketing strategy does now?
There were some of the components of some of the things we do now were components of the original plan. I come from a farming background as well, but conventionally farmed merinos is what my family's always done, and I thought having a standalone farm of my own was an opportunity to do things differently, and I also wanted to selling our beef direct, or selling whatever product we ended up with, it ended up being beef, felt like a way of getting recognition, value, and also helping share knowledge with consumers about the way we were farming. We started off growing and trading steers for the first few years we were here, and that was great because the commodity market was rising at the time, so it was very hard not to make money out of trading steers. But there was no recognition about how we were farming or any premium paid for what we produced above the condition of the animal. So it was only profitable because the market was rising, and I felt like I wanted to do something where I had more control over the price I received in the end, as well as being able to communicate directly with the customers. The first step, I suppose, of building the business we have at the moment was selling directly to butchers, which I tried for a year or 18 months. And I had a very skilled and supportive butcher who encouraged me for a start, and he appreciated the breed and how we were farming, and really appreciated the personal interaction with us as farmers. But as the economy slowed over the next couple of years, and commodity beef prices crashed, butchers have really struggled to stay in business as customers have dried up, and that's a really tough business to be in at the moment, retail butchery. They just can't sell the quantities that they hope. So it's difficult to plan as a business owner, how much a butcher's going to be buying from you for the next few weeks or few months or the year ahead. So I suppose the business evolved. I'd always wanted to sell beef directly. I imagined perhaps I would sell it to butchers for longer than I did, but direct selling very quickly became a way of controlling the narrative about how we were farming, controlling our own brand and the sales volumes, and to really maximise profit. So it was part of the original plan, but it felt like actually the only thing to do after trying a couple of other things.
I'm glad that you mentioned brand there, Donna, because the next question that I had for you was, I wanted you to tell us something that has been important to make your brand stand out from the others. And can you tell us a little bit more about that? And then we'll head back to Sam.
So I suppose the most obvious thing about our brand is that we sell belted Galloway beef, which isn't something that's very common in Australia. It is in the UK, where they are a native breed, but they're perfect for us. We chose them because the beef is beautiful beef. But they're also slow growing, and it fits the slow food narrative, which is part of our brand. But they're also climate appropriate. They're hardy, they're easy carvers, they're good mothers, and their temperament suits the way we farm. So by rotational grazing or holistic grazing, or in America they call it AMP grazing. And in the UK they're regarded as conservation grazers, so they're really good for landscapes that are being regenerated and improving the biodiversity of pastures. So that they are really good for our operation in improving the ecology of our farm. But they are the beef is primarily why we chose them. But they're recognisable and they're highly marketable. So I think they're our most important brand pillar.
And of course, the beef is delicious.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great story that you can tell back to your consumers as well. Some of these things that you're talking about, you know, climate appropriate conservation grazers. It must be a great thing to be able to tell your consumers some of these attributes for belted Galloways. What about you, Sam? What has been something that's been really important to make your brand stand out from the others?
I think that I guess we were maybe an early adopter in the whole space of selling directly. So we sort of started thinking about this in about 2010. And at that time, there wasn't so many people in the game doing it. So sort of getting in a little bit earlier meant that we could solidify our brand and get recognised pretty early on, I guess, which sort of has carried through till now. People sort of say, "Oh, you're Sidonia beef. I know that," or "The friend's got it," or "I've had it," or whatever. So I think standing the test of time and building a brand early on has really helped us personally. And I think from there too, that we haven't gone. We're still here and we're still producing something of quality. Obviously, word of mouth helps too. A high quality product, so not compromising on or cutting corners on how you grow your animal, not being pressured by butchers to get an animal in because they need it. You know, taking your time, getting it right, getting it to where you want it to, allowing time for the paddocks to grow that animal right on the salad bowl of biodiverse pastures if you can. We hope that people think that Sidonia beef is now synonymous with high quality animal care, land stewardship and environmental care, which I think that message has sort of got out to the people who do know us. and consistent messaging around our farming practices, environmental focus, and that has been a really good one too. So you just, if you can, constantly telling your story about how we're farming and why it's working. And, obviously people, I say to people, we grow the beef, but it's up to you to cook it. We do the best we can for 22, 24 months. And then it's, up to the rest of the chain of production to make sure it gets on the plate right. But I think, people are learning more about how to cook, and, they know, and people are more aware of what they're cooking and what they're choosing to eat too. So, and just being honest too, and being upfront, like when people said, oh, are you certified organic? And we used to say, no, we're not, but come out and see what we do. That's our certification process. So yeah, they're probably the main points.
I might add something to that, if that's okay, Sally. Yeah, I agree, Sam. I think that about transparency is really important to our brand. I know for yours too, Sam, and communicating what you're doing about regenerative agriculture, so that people are often attracted to our business, or first notices because of the belted Galloways, but then that is an opportunity to then start a conversation about regenerative agriculture, and we can give our personal story and personal service. And our brand is about committing to share our learnings and share our story. I suppose that's really important, that we're really involved in the faces of our brand.
That's right. Exactly.
They think they're going to look at a belted Galloway, but actually they're looking at me.
Oh, great. That's really good. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add in there, Sam, at all? Just because Donna's jumped on there as well.
Didn't know that. No, just really. I could add a little bit to that to say that we are probably have another avenue, and that is in food events. One being a Lost Trades Fair, where we can actually get out into the public and, as Donna says, show you your face to the consumer, and they get to meet the producer.
Here's the farmer.
Here's the farmer who produces it, which has been just fantastic, because you can tell the story, they tell you their story, and in the end they become potentially a new customer. So I think that's really been a really good highlight, is being able to get onto those sort of events that showcase your product.
So it seems, it seems like a really key part of your business and your brand is both of you. People are really connecting with the story of you working on the farm and producing your animals, and then sort of that paddock to plate story. Whether you're meeting them on the farm or whether you're meeting them at the Lost Trades Fair, there's lots of different ways to meet people, but they're really connecting with the story of you and your family working on the farm. So hopefully there's a few people on the webinar here that can also tell a story about their family working on the farm. So I'd like to change tack a little bit now, and I would like to consider the financial side of things. What type of measures are you considering to ensure that you're profitable? So I'd like to direct that to Donna, if I can, and then we'll go back to Sam.
Thanks, Sally. So in terms of straightforward measurements of profit, I suppose some important measures that ways of farming and operating to ensure we're profitable are actually our farming practices. So regenerative agriculture can mean a whole lot of things, but to us, I suppose, it's pretty low input farming. So we don't have a lot of machinery. We we don't buy fertilizers, we don't use a lot of diesel, we're not using sprays, so it's really labour, and almost all of the labour, apart from a couple of we use a fencing contractor, but apart from that, where it's me and the support of the family, so that's cutting our keeping our costs low. Also in the business from start to finish, controlling the supply chain, I suppose. The way we've found to be profitable on a small farm is to sell our beef directly. We on a farm of only 47 hectares, the only way to make money really growing beef cattle is to sell the beef directly ourselves. And we only retail, so people often ask, "Oh, do you sell to chefs?" And it's really tempting, because when your brand becomes more well known, and you have customers who like what you do, and people hear about you, you get calls from shops and from chefs who would like to buy your product, but we have been quite determined to stay only retail, as a way of just maximising the profits. So they're really how we ensure that we're profitable, but we also we look at what we produce more broadly in terms of what value we bring to things. So we look at the triple bottom line, so whether we're making money and how we can best make money, but also the impact we're having on the health of the landscape, but also socially too, talking about telling our story, talking about how we farm, the environmental practices that we employ, and hopefully helping educate people about the importance of farmers and farming and regenerative agriculture, and also real food. We also set aside a proportion of every beef body to contribute to a local food bank, which that's our choice and our privilege to be able to do that. But to us, that is part of being a successful business, is being able to do that. Really, we don't have a mainstream or a straightforward view of profit. We really would prefer to think in terms of the value we're bringing to the community and to the environment, over and above just what your gross profit is each year.
It strikes me that your commitment to the triple bottom line, it sort of links in with that really positive branding that you've set up for yourself, in line with the regenerative farming. Even just that connection in with Food Share, and being connected in with your local community. I really like that, and I think that's a really good thing to be doing for your business. Sam, can you tell us a little bit more about what type of measures you consider to ensure that you are profitable?
Yep, no worries. Yeah, similar to Donna, and I think with regenerative agriculture and the fact that the animal health, by moving them often and onto fresh pasture, really does reduce a lot of input costs. So yeah, cost of production to run one of our cows is very minimal. I guess after trialing so many of those other methods, that we realised the best input is our cow, is the animal. You really don't. There's no need for machinery. Really, there's no need for extra input fertilizer, if you can manage your land through an animal's rumen, basically. So I heard it once, but when I was learning all this, that the farmer's only cost to produce the animal was the electronic ear tag. I thought, wow, that's amazing. You know, imagine if you could just do that. And today we're not far away from that. Like, it's literally from go to woe, from paddock to the plate. Other than the electronic ear tag, there might be a bit of diesel for the bike. The dog that's still hanging on, it's got to be fed. You know, this is how simple it can be, because that animal is a four-legged soil renovator, and pasture improver, solar panel, whatever you like to call it, free. You know, especially if you're in the breeding game where you can keep breeding your own and it's a closed circle, you know, they're fantastic. Also, you know, like Donna was saying, I'm self-employed. Obviously, I don't have a team of to worry about, other than maybe paying the kids now and again for a job if they can get out on the farm. But you know, our own manual labour and that labour has reduced too. You know, with regen farming, it doesn't have to be hard anymore. Farming is actually fun and easy, or to a point easier than it ever used to be. I think also, you know, we don't want to shy away from the word profit. I think, you know, we're all here to make money, and in our case, it's our only income. So, you know, to be profitable isn't a bad thing. I think it's a good thing, and we really should focus on that first, because nobody wants to work all day and not make anything from it. So we couldn't emphasize enough how regen farming, and then with the add-on of what Donna and I are doing with paddock to plate, direct sales, events, you know, that's just cream on the top of what we're already sort of doing. So also, initially we made a very accessible product, and our boxes were quite cheap. They're only a little bit above supermarket prices when we first started. But I think now people realise if they're going to get good food, you've got to pay a little bit extra. And, you know, if you get cheap anything, and especially if you get cheap food, there's been a cost somewhere along the line. And usually that cost is to the environment or to something else, in my belief. So paying a little bit extra for something, you know, that's grown on farm, it's actually improving the environment is a really great thing. So I think I hope it answers that.
I think can I just say too, Sam, about pricing, that there's people use the price of something to help them put a value on it, and if something's too cheap, people don't value it.
That's right.
So I would prefer to be priced above supermarkets, and then be able to keep a little bit aside for people who couldn't buy it, rather than I've learned over the past few years that I was really nervous about putting a higher price than a supermarket on our beef for a start, but people need a higher price sometimes to value what's gone into it, and to value the regen aspect, or personal service, or whatever it is that they're valuing in the transaction. And
the feedback we get, you would too, I'm sure, is that they usually end up saying, you know, this is really reasonable, or it's actually too cheap, you know. Whereas we're feeling like, oh, maybe we're charging too much because you can get it so cheap in the supermarket, but then you got to come back to thinking, you know,
what is it that we're selling?
What we're selling is so different to conventional supermarket products.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely it is. I think I will liken it to the idea that you know, if you're putting your products on sale all the time, people won't, you know, if you had a clothes business, they wouldn't buy the clothing when it's full priced because they just wait for the sale. But it's really of vital importance that we do as regenerative farmers, that we do value our product because we are going over and above and really valuing the natural environment. So I would like to know if there are any barriers that you've come across to direct marketing your product. You could you could be considered small producers. There's certainly smaller producers than you, Sam, but in the scheme of things, you're considered small producers. And how do you overcome them? I will go to, let's go to Sam first because I've already got your slides up, and then we'll go back to Donna.
Okay. Yes, so the barriers to direct marketing, there has been a lot over the journey. And basically, look, you got to realise what you are, and what I'm not a salesman. And initially it was actually hard to try and go out and sell a product for me personally, because I felt like it just didn't sit well with me to try and go and sell something and almost say, please buy it. So I realised that that's not who I am. I'm actually the producer of beef. But in saying that, I focused on telling people how we farm and tell our story, how we cared for the animals and the welfare of them, and in saying what I'm passionate about and what I do, turn into a direct sale, I guess. Anyway, so that leads me to say about marketing. I think marketing is very important, and get the right person or team or whatever it is to get behind you on marketing. Someone professional, leave it to them. Don't try and sort of do it all yourself, I guess. Because telling your story in the right way and sending your image in the right way is quite an important part to the consumer sort of trusting you or finding out who you are. And as I say, don't try and do everything. Trying to do it all will just run yourself into the ground, and it won't go well. I think that the way we overcame that is talking to the consumer, obviously, about our story is a really helpful one. But also having a really reliable, trustworthy relationship with along the chain of production is, because we've got the trucking, starting with the person who comes and picks up the animals. We've had a few truckies over the years, but we're happy with the guy. He doesn't have a electric product to start with. Very calm with the cattle. Like, these are little things that are very important, because you've worked hard and we're growing them for nearly 2 years, to only see them get prodded by an electric prodder up the cattle ramp and then prodded at the abattoir is really deflating. So if you can control that side of it as best you can, then that's going to help the product be a better one. Processing facility as well. We did tours of Hardwicks in the earlier days, to see how it was going, to see where your animal was with all the other animals, and sort of till you felt happy with that, and we questioned it, made sure we got our animal back, and all those sort of things that everyone sort of seems to go through. So we're lucky to be able to get a tour of that. And then it's down to the butchers, and it's a fickle world, the butcher game. A lot of skullduggery, as we used to say in the butcher game. We were with Inglewood, we were over at the meat room, we went to Broadford, we've been to Kyneton, we've been to Romsey, and then back to Kyneton, and now we're at Goldie. Like, it's just none of them have been bad, but I think it's just getting one of those butchers who's totally on board with how you're farming, how you want your product to be seen on the plate. Usually they're too busy and tied up with their own business, and we're sort of a bit of a hassle. So that's a really hard thing. I think people will find that challenging, to get somebody and get that trust relationship. So that's an important one.
I agree on the butcher, they really have to be on board with what you're doing, and also if you have any specific requests. Like if you want to have a point of difference, so you know, you want to maximize your yield or something like that, or it's really when they're the expert at their job, it's very hard to question what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
But they're an important part of.
You might have an older butcher who's really set in their ways and doesn't want to change, but then you just it's getting through to them that, you know, we're not the conventional customer. So it is a challenge. And we are, as you say, pretty small producers, so everything that goes out of our farms is important. And we just hope that they see that too. So building a relationship, very important.
Thanks for that, Sam. And thanks for your addition there, Donna. Did you have any other challenges you wanted to talk to us about?
I think Sam mentioned about abattoirs, and that's a big topic that concerns anyone who is interested in starting a business like this. And centralisation of abattoirs and them becoming big businesses is difficult for small producers. That's a conversation for it's a very big conversation, so I'll just mention it. But also, whichever abattoir you're using, it's important that every kilogram that we produce, that we spend 2 to 3 to 4 years producing, and have done absolutely everything for every moment of that animal's life, that it's such a valuable product. To then to maximise your yield, but then be at the behest of an abattoir where you can't access offal or hides or cheeks or a whole lot of products, really impacts the profitability of your business. But as small producers, the size of our businesses means we don't have a lot of power. So that's the scale of my business particularly means I've really got to try and negotiate and build personal relationships with anybody who's providing a service for our business where I'm losing a little bit of control. But there are some things that you just can't overcome. So you minimise those examples. I just wanted to add labour and money. You know, my business is run pretty lean, and so we do everything we can ourselves. But if we did need labour, finding labour is a hard thing. You know, shearers are hard to find, or you know, just it's not easy being there. There are lots of things that being a small farmer makes difficult. Whether we were producing wool or meat, but you just don't have. Also, economies of scale. Like you can't justify buying equipment that you use for, I don't know, once a year. Like we have a Borderlester sheep stud, and I've got this quite serviceable shearing arrangement in our hay shed, and the shearers are great and they don't mind, but there's no way I can justify like setting up a permanent shearing shed. But then I'm relying on shearers that don't mind that, and the same. There's lots of examples like that with the beef business too. It's really without scale, there's a lot of limitations.
Lucky you don't have to shear a cow.
Well, I could say. Right.
Shearing's getting harder and harder.
Perhaps there might be some people in the audience that might want to talk about that when we get to question time. Did you have any other challenges that you wanted to talk about, or should we move on to opportunities?
Yeah, I think we can move on. Yep.
Good, because I would really like to know about what is the best part of direct marketing your product. We can start with Donna. and what are some of the opportunities that you've come up with?
So I think it's all about me. No, I'm just joking. No, it really, the answer is in what it's called, which is direct marketing and direct sales. It's direct contact with the customer. So there's really not much between the cattle being out on the farm with me to the person cooking it for dinner, and that's really a really exciting opportunity to be able to tell a story about farming and about this kind of farming particularly, and bring the customers along with you. I think that just feels like a really special opportunity to tell the story. I think is to be on even a small farm, to have an impact far beyond the land size we have, or the number of kilograms of beef that we produce each year, and that is because we can tell our story. That there's no way we have that opportunity if we sell the commodity market.
That's right.
What about you, Sam? What have been some of the best things for you, or some of the opportunities?
Yeah, I think similar to what Donna was saying is, we used to just take our animals once a year in January to the Kyneton sale yards for the weaner sale. Talk to a few people, and then I used to leave that place thinking, I wonder where the cows actually have gone to. I never used to know. I think the agents used to think I was funny because I used to ask, who bought them, where'd they go? And I was also the only guy at the Kyneton sale yards, I'll just say, that used to put up the sign when everyone else was saying 7-in-1, Ivermectin and all the drenching, that actually there's no drenching. Cod liver oil, and I used to get some funny looks, but I was sort of proud to say that I actually didn't do that. And we were usually in the first row, so our yield was still good. But yeah, now direct marketing, as Donna said, you're out meeting the people who are actually eating your produce. You know exactly where it's gone to, which is just an amazing thing. Hearing their enjoyment and feedback of cooking your beef is one of the best things, I think.
Getting the photographs of people's dinners.
Oh, that's right.
Just,
yes.
Great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, some people take the time and photograph what they've cooked, and they're really excited about it, which you wouldn't get any other, doing it in the commodity market. For us, I suppose getting out to a food event is fantastic, as I said earlier. But also we do have, and as Donna has too, people on the farm visiting. We've actually got Assumption College students and Sacred Heart College students coming over the next few months. So that's sort of a new thing for us, be able to teach younger people who are studying food at school the ways of regen farming and paddock to plate. Actually, the subject is paddock to plate at Sacred Heart, which I thought was quite good. So that's fantastic. But just knowing that we're feeding the the local community healthy food, something that we're feeding our own family. So that's, there's just so much, and sharing stories and knowledge with what we're doing with people, and hearing their stories and stuff like that, and just having a pride in the whole process and the product.
Yeah, pride, I think, in it. Like you can be so proud of what you produce. There's nothing, and there's nothing to hide. I think that's very
right.
freeing to farm like that, and know that people know what it is they're buying, and they're buying into it. They're buying it because of how you're farming.
That's right.
It's very rewarding.
Yeah.
I can hear the satisfaction in both of you while you're talking about that, and I can just imagine you both leap out of bed every morning, ready to jump into work every day, because it is very nice going out and walking over your paddocks and seeing the animals that you raised every morning, going out and checking them during calving. So we are up to our last question. What is your vision for the future of your business. We'll go to Sam first, and then we'll finish up with Donna.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Vision for the future. Well, I can only see a positive future, where once I may not have, and certainly Dad would say that through his time, through the 80s and 90s with my older siblings, there wasn't really an opportunity. I think now that we've discovered regenerative agriculture and a low input and a profitable way of farming, that it's much more attractive to the next generation. So I think I can only see that we will expand on what we're doing. But in expanding, I think that we need to collaborate with like-minded people. Sometimes you feel alone in what you're doing, and I think to have the support of others around you is important. I think there's a lot of power in going forward in collaboration with like-minded people, and obviously we're part of the Masson Rangers Regenerative Farmers Group, so events there and all the opportunities that comes with that, only inspires you to keep going. I think keep monitoring what we're doing. So, we're always looking at how we're going, planning and replanning if needing, and monitoring along the way to make sure that we regenerate and enhance our environment, because at the end of the day, we don't see the farm as a farm anymore. We sort of see it as a ecosystem and an environment. And if we can just make it better all the time, we will. So I'm not sure if you've got a picture, or my picture there, Sally, of Angus standing out in the fields. I haven't told him about it, but there's a picture of him standing and looking down at the grassland, and it was just sort of a way of saying that, I think, it's an enjoyable practice in farming now, and being profitable, it's seen as an opportunity for the younger generation rather than being a burden that maybe it used to be. And I can sort of see that the kids are sort of looking at it going, this is quite good. It's fun. There's aspects to this that's good fun. It's not all just hard work. The cattle move really easily. The dog's just there on the back. It doesn't have to do anything much. And they can see the simplicity of it, and they're learning along the way. So I think the vision for our business in the future is going to be exciting. And look forward to seeing what the next steps are.
Great, thank you. I will just ask, because I have been showing. Can you see Angus there standing in the field?
We can't on our screen. I'm not sure whether anyone else can.
Might need to send Jason. Can you see it, Jason?
No, I haven't been able to see any of them the way through.
Well, that was all right. Well, what we'll do is we'll finish up with Donna, and we'll send the slides out later, because these guys have done a fabulous job of putting together slides, and you guys have missed them all. So can you tell us your vision for the future of your business, Donna? Thank you.
Oh, well, actually echo some of what Sam, or all of what Sam said, but I think it's wonderful to be your own boss and be able to run your own farm, but really a lot of the energy that you can bring to your business comes from interactions with other people and other farmers. So like we have been over the past year in the Regen Farming Group, collaborating with other farmers and finding ways to work together is really important to me. And making a lot of my career I worked in communication, and it's telling stories is really important to me. So I think in the future, just putting even more effort into communicating some of the messages of how we farm and why we farm like we do is important to me. To really continue helping reconnect people with where their food comes from. It's a really important thing for me to re-engage people with the food system, because I think there's a really sad and disturbing disconnect between farmers and consumers, and some people don't know a lot about farming, and I think for people to make food is the connection between farmers and consumers. That's how we connect. So the more that we can tell the story of what we do and why we do it, the more chance we have to bring people along with us. So yeah, spending more time and more effort communicating how and why we do what we do is something I'm really excited about.
Well, great, thanks, Donna. So I would like to open it up to the crowd now to just see if we have any questions. We have got some that have come through on the chat. Grant has been a chef this afternoon. So I don't know if I'll be saying this correctly, but coq au vin blanc. So it sounds like something delicious is happening at Grant's house. So George Breen has asked, we may have covered this already, but what state, federal or other regulations apply to paddock to plate businesses? Did either of you want to cover that, Donna and Sam?
There's nothing stopping you from selling an animal that you have produced from your farm through the steps of the production. I think once it, like to the butcher, it's got to be processed. So we're lucky we've got Hardwick's close by because that's very convenient. That is all regulated through them. So that's all covered by them. The meat comes out of there. They take it to your butcher. So they can take it anywhere in the whole state if you want, wherever you want it to go. The butcher then is in charge of making sure that meat's properly managed and cut up and packaged. When it comes to us is when I guess you've got to have a little bit of the regulation. So you need to have an approved vehicle for transporting the beef if that's what you're doing. But other than that, there's probably more. I might be missing some. But
just another step in it that Sam's just left off the end is having a licensed premises to store the meat, and you could get around that by meat going straight from the butchers or being delivered in a Prime Safe registered vehicle. But yeah, we have the meat delivered back to us, and then customers collect from us, but we're able to have a council permit, environmental health permit for farm gate pickups. So yeah. And
yeah, I'll just say that out. We go from the butcher straight to their door or to the pickup point. So it all happens within a few hours. So we get around that storage or that the time that, you know, you might need more permits if you're holding the meat longer.
I suppose that the primary thing is for meat to be sold in Victoria, it must be processed at an abattoir. So we can't use an on-farm butcher.
Unless it's for family and friends, isn't it?
Yeah. Can't sell it.
We can't sell it to consumers. Yeah.
I do know. So Narelle has asked, what's Brian's surname? Sam, you mentioned that you went to Brian Weilberg's training, and he originally introduced you to the concept of holistic grazing management.
That's right.
Yep.
Yes,
so that's Brian Weilberg. So we can put his name down into the chat. And we can tell you a little bit later as well, Narelle, because we're currently taking on people for the holistic grazing management short course that we're running locally, that Sam and Donna both present some of those sections along at that course. So I'll give you a little bit of information about that a little bit later. How do you, we have a question here from Graham. How do you overcome the tax issues for your style of business? So we might need a bit of clarification on what the tax issues are there, Graham. If you'd like to, happy for you to unmute and ask the speakers directly, if you're comfortable doing that. You there, Graham? Well, while we think about Graham's question, did you have anything you wanted to add to Graham's question?
It would, I'm just not quite sure what tax issues Graham's referring to. So whether it's how you set up your farm business, or we have an accountant who we prepare profit and loss statements about, you know, the stock we have at the start of the financial year and the stock we have at the end, and our sales are much like are recorded the same as any other retail business, and our costs are accounted for as well. So I look forward to answering that. Yeah, if Graham can provide some more details.
I see that Graham's unmuted, so I'll let him ask you guys directly. Well, we are having trouble hearing from Graham, I think. So I'll just let Graham know just to write a little bit more into the chat. Can't get onto the microphone, so if you just would like to write a little bit more into the chat, we'll come back to your question here in a minute. So what we'll do, we have another question here from Bronwyn Band. How long did it take you to build up a big enough customer base to be profitable?
Yeah, good question. I think probably for us, it was probably in the first couple of years. We were selling into a shop in Melbourne, as well as having our beef boxes. So we also had a fridge space at Duck, Goose and Larder in Kyneton back in the day. So it sort of, we found that was really good, because people could be buying the product off the shelf, but also signing up to the beef boxes to go on with as well. So it sort of ramped up our customer base fairly quickly. In terms of profitability, I'd say like within the first couple of years we were making profit, and it didn't take long, and it only got stronger from then on. I just really quickly say to Graham that one thing with the tax man, they always have a bit of a bewildered look when they come to the expenses, and there's not that many.
Yeah.
But I think they used to, we go to a guy who does a lot of farmers, and they must have a lot of input costs and machinery and all that sort of thing. So I always have a bit of a chuckle to myself when he says, "Oh, any other expenses?" And I go, "Oh, not that many. No, there's just sort of a profit from the cattle sales, but not much to produce that profit." So, but the 5-year averaging for farming is a good thing too. So we do still get an average. If the year's good or if it's bad, they average that out, which is a good thing. I think, you know, people probably do know that. If you don't know about that, that's a good thing if you're in primary production.
I have another question here from Lucy and Barnaby. What do you think, and this will be for both of you, what do you think has been the biggest learning curve or mistake that you've made along the way, and how did you cope? I'll let you nominate who wants to answer that first.
I think pricing for a start. Or perhaps, yeah, it was just a little too cheap for a start, and I spoke about that before, about needing to use pricing as part of the value proposition. I think Sam talked before about difficulty selling your own product, and it took me a little while to realise that actually and it always it's not a straightforward transaction where people are buying your beef. They're actually buying your story, and they're buying the why of what you're doing. And I think it took me a little while to fine tune what is your sales message, but it's a much more complex and delicate sales transaction than with a commodity product. So not so much a mistake, just a learning. Just takes a while to learn that sort of thing. I perhaps would have been better at it if I'd been selling someone else's product. It's very hard to get used to selling your own thing. I don't know why. Just shy people.
Shy conservative farmers.
Yeah.
Did you have anything you wanted to add there, Sam?
Any mistakes or anything that you important learning?
Yeah, I think you might have touched on it earlier, Donna, that we got so excited about what we were doing. We were saying yes to everything, and I think we were spreading ourselves too thin. I think that's a trap that people may fall into, is that you've got customers, you've got restaurants, chefs that might want your product. So we were actually selling to chefs and to consumers, and in the end it all became way too much. And I think I might have mentioned this to some people before, but we did get a phone call in the sort of the first 12 months from a restaurateur, a chef in Melbourne, saying he loved the beef, fantastic, but could we get 50 eye fillets for this Friday night, please? That was a real wake-up call at that time, and the disconnect that they had with what we were doing. And I said, do you realise that's probably over 100 animals that we need to supply to you by this Friday? So, we were educating chefs in the end about the secondary cuts and how to cook them, because they were really only steak people, and I'm sure it still probably is an issue today. So yeah, not spreading yourself too thin and concentrating on what you do and what you do well, and you directing and teaching the customer.
And I think something I've learnt the importance of is absolute transparency and truthfulness. Not it's not a mistake I made. It wasn't. It didn't not tell the truth, but you've really got to be able. If you're going to tell a story, you've really got to be able to stand by that story. And so it's not a mistake, but it's just I've come to understand the importance of that. You can't say you're doing one thing and be doing something else. It's always an opportunity. If you need to do something that you haven't done before in your pasture management or your animal management or whatever, use that as an opportunity to explain why you're having to do that. Or it's not enough to just put a label on what you do, or a certification or whatever.
Yeah, thank you, Donna. Thank you, Sam. It's really good to learn from the learnings, not necessarily mistakes, but like the learnings from others that people come up with as they go through their business journey. This is an interesting one from Miranda. Can you guys give a rough guess of what percentage of city folk customers would know about regenerative farming?
Very
Oh,
few.
yeah,
Really.
very few. Yeah, definitely. We've still got a customer sort of base in Melbourne, but we've more concentrated on local. Now we're sort of, our supply is enough for local people, but yeah, you probably know, Donna, with your recent farm tours and things like that, not many would know.
No, and I had lovely people recently who came on a tour, and they had never heard of anything. They were really conscious consumers, and bushwalkers and nature people and lots of things, had never ever heard of anything to do with regen ag, and they thought I had invented all of it. But that's just one example. But
yes, you did.
Yeah.
Yes.
And no, I really think, Miranda, it's such a tiny proportion, and it feels quite urgent to tell an authentic story before supermarkets get hold of this somehow and co-opt
the wording. Yeah.
And I actually don't say very often that we're regenerative farmers, because I feel it's better to give an explanation of what you do rather than just use a word, so that people don't just hear that word and then hang on to it and then think they can get that meat somewhere else. Or
Donna's meat, I can get it at Coles now because it says regenerative. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so I'd say a very small proportion of the population. So that's where the education comes in.
It's good that we have people like you and the rest of us as well, that are sort of working through that Healthy Landscapes program to help to educate the local community, whether whether they're farmers looking for more information about regenerative farming, or whether they're just generally the public. So like what you were saying, Donna, about people needing to understand what regenerative farming or holistic grazing, all of those different terms, and what they mean for them, for their family, how they're getting that meat onto their plate. So I've got another couple of questions, and that we can go through to, but I do want to just pause here for 1 minute, and we will stop the recording, so that if people do need to head off, they can do that. I would like to thank you all so much for your time this evening. I'm sure you've all taken your own things away from listening to Sam and Donna today, but I have actually summarised a few things of my own. So I think it's really important to trial things and change as needed to suit your business. So Sam has done many different trials on his property, that he started out with his cod liver oil drenches, with his many sheep, starting at 8 o'clock in the morning and finishing off at 3 p.m. And really honestly, I think working in the sheep yards really makes you reevaluate your life choices. And that's probably been how Sam started on his regenerative journey, isn't it, Sam?
Yeah.
Then, from Donna, we heard about controlling the brand and controlling the narrative, how important transparency and communication is in that. People come and they notice the belted Galloways, but they continue the conversation when we hear about regenerative agriculture. From Sam, I heard that relationship building can be really challenging, but it's really of vital importance for your business. And direct contact with the customer is just such an opportunity for regenerative agriculture, for regenerative agricultural business. So I'd really like to thank you guys again. Thank you to our audience for coming along. Please stay and ask for some questions, but I'm going to stop the recording just so that we can stop it. and